Hi, this is Norman Kochnick here on Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. I'm actually joined today by a lovely gentleman called Ken Piesse. How are you, Ken?
Nice to see you, Norman.
Nice to see you too. Now, Ken's with me today. We're actually at an amazing backdrop. We're actually currently at the Park Hyatt on the Rocks, which is in Sydney Harbour. Our backdrop is actually a lovely P&O. Is it a P&O cruise over there, Ken?
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Carnival Splendor. It's about to leave. We'll show you that a bit later. Also the Opera House and Harbour Bridge, but it's a great location. And I've got Ken here today. He is an amazing man. He has a great history with cricket. He has written so many books I can't even mention the number. It was 63.
63 cricket.
63 cricket books. There's many other things he will talk about. But Ken, I brought him along here today, especially on the eve of the World Cup, which is about to happen in only a matter of some 17, 18 days. Well, in fact, it's less than that. 16th of October it actually starts, where the group stages will start. But it's an amazing tournament all around Australia. We're here in Sydney, where some of the semi-finals will be. But in fact, the finals will be in your hometown, Melbourne, won't it?
It's going to be great, the MCG. There's nothing quite like the MCG for a golden occasion, like the girls going back just before COVID hit, got 86,000 there. So the Men's World Cup is going to be huge. And certainly with the world's greatest stars, it's going to be a magnificent occasion for those who love white ball cricket like you and I.
Certainly. Now, Ken, I'm just going to. We'll actually start. We're going to have one particular chapter about Ken's books in just a moment. You're on Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. Hi, this is Norman Kochnick here from Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick, and I'm in a wonderful spot with an equally as wonderful gentleman here named Ken Piesse. How are you, Ken?
Good to see you, Norman.
Good to see you too.
Great backdrop, isn't it?
It is a magnificent backdrop, actually.
I'm just about to head off with P&O on the Pacific Explorer. We're going up to Noumea and back, just as a bit of R&R, where I do, of course, my sports presentations, as you know, but before heading into the World Cup, which is just going to be so exciting.
Isn't it what? The World Cup's an amazing event. The ICC T20 World Cup, which is obviously around the corner, some 15 days away, starting on October 16th, in fact, with the actual, what they call the general group matches prior to actually the final standing. So I've got Ken now. Ken's an amazing gentleman. I'll just quickly alert you to his amazing history. He has written some 63 cricket books, a plethora of other aspects of cricket, which I'll get Ken to elaborate on. But we're particularly privileged to have him here today. He's about to embark on yet another P&O cruise. Over to you, Ken. Let me hear all about what you and your life has been about, which is quite incredible for our viewers.
Thanks, Norman. Well, cricket's 24/7 for me. I'm the president of the Australian Cricket Society down in Melbourne. As you say, all those books, I think with the footy and cricket books I've done, I'm up to something like 85 or 86. I've got to get a real job, don't I, really?
Yeah, well, I think you've got a real job.
But being at the big cricket is just nothing beats it. We're about to take a tour next year for the Ashes. Next mid-June, we'll see Lords and also Leeds Test match where Stokes went berserk.
Oh, wow.
Going 4 years back now. It's just like yesterday with the way so well did he play. But I'm thinking about the white ball and the World Cup and the girls' cricket. They were so brilliant. 86,000 there just before COVID hit at the MCG for the Women's Cricket Final 2020. And this is going to be just as good, especially, I just hope, say I'm a Victorian boy, a Melbourne boy, I just hope Aaron Finch can go all the way and really go out in style with another more silverware, because he really deserves it.
Well, I agree with you, Ken. I think that actually Aaron Finch will deserve another platform as not in the MCG to actually show his wares as captain of this country. What most impressive though is he could end with a great crescendo. He may in fact retire after this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, he stood down as the 50-50 captain, and really, I think that at his age, 36 rising 37, that he's just about had his chips as an international player. He's been a superb player though, and while he's only played 3 or 4 Test matches, more than 200 Australian representations. You and I would take that, wouldn't we?
We would take that any day, Ken. Now, just back to you for a moment. I'm particularly impressed. Our viewers would love to know a lot about the actual books that you've authored and continue to author. Tell us a bit about what your history is with the authoring of books.
So my new one's called Ken Piesse's ABC of Australian Cricket. It's like a dictionary, but a quirky dictionary. Lots of tall tales and true. So I'm very, very lucky to work in cricket every day of the week. Monday onwards. And so with all the books that I've done, I've been so fortunate. There's been lovely histories of the Melbourne cricket ground called Cricket's Coliseum. There's been books with some of the famous players like Terry Jenner, Shane Warne's coach. Shane did the forward for me for that one. We did Down at the Junction, which is the St Kilda history. Shane did the forward for that as well. And it's really important to be able to talk to as many of these old players as possible. And in all my presentations that I do for P&O, I love telling the anecdotes and some of the favourite tall stories and true about, like, for example, Don Bradman. You know, there's no bigger name than Don Bradman, but his contributions as a cricketer on the field unparalleled, but off the field the same. Like, he attended, for example, 3 committee meetings a week, every week for 30 years. Now, I'm not sure of the math there, but it's one hell of a contribution over 25, 30 years as an Australian selector, committee man, administrator. So I love the stories behind the stories, Norman, as you do, like the anecdotes from the Don onwards. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, the fact is that, Ken, you've been blessed to be in great contact with the likes of Shane Warne in the past, with Don Bradman and a whole range of players. In fact, Neil Harvey now, who's, I'm going to call him a Sydneyite now, Ken, even though he's truly a Melbourne born cricket of great note. He's a lovely gentleman. In fact, he's one of the few men who have, in fact, he's probably one of the only men who have actually played with or against Bradman.
Very true. Like, he's, 93, 94 now, Nina. Only 19 going back to 1948.
Amazing.
And he was such a talent, and we had him, he came down the MCC for one of the Bradman orations, a big luncheon they have around August 27 every year, and I literally pirated the talent, got him to come a little bit earlier, and he helped launch a book, as did Arthur Morris with me, another of the 48 Invincibles. And I had David Hobson, one of the great singers, Australian singers of all, do some of his favourite songs called, including Shenandoah, just for Neil and Barbara Harvey, who both came. Barbara was alive back then. So yeah, they're God's own children, some of these boys. Ellen Davidson was the same. And I love just being able to listen and chat with these people. And were you there that time? Like, it's funny with Arthur Morris, Norman, the famous story about Bradman's duck, his last duck. And if he hadn't gone out for a duck, instead of 99.94, his average would have been 101. Doesn't quite have the same ring. No. But Neil Harvey, in that particular game that they won the test before, hit the winning runs, and he always blames himself. If I'd let Don hit the winning runs, he would have had that 100 average. But Arthur Morris, in the game, Don Bradman's last, where he made the most famous blob in history, Arthur Morris was on business, and did you play in that game, Arthur? Well, actually, matter of fact, I did. Sorry, I was at the other end. Were you really? And did you make any? And on the night when we had the launch, Arthur asked Judy, did I make any? Yes, you did. He ended up making 196, of course, and nobody had remembered it. The most famous 196 of all time, but nothing against Bradman's blob. So it's a lot of fun being able to relate some of these favourite stories of the old players.
Well, viewers, we must make sure that I'll actually have links towards all of Ken's collection of books, and we'll see what ones you like, and we may get Ken back to talk about one specifically. But it's been a great pleasure to have you here, Ken, with a backdrop of the P&O cruise behind us. It's Carnival Splendor. The one you're going on today is what's that?
It's the Pacific Explorer, yeah.
Pacific Explorer. Yeah. And that's, can you imagine having a lovely man like Ken telling you about basically commentating on both cricket and AFL?
Yeah, AFL, yeah.
But the history of his experiences with cricketers has been immense. So look, I'm really appreciative of your time, Ken, and I might get you on occasionally to do a bit of a co-hosting effort. I think it'd be wonderful to have on, in particular during the World Cup. We never know. But thanks again, Ken. I really appreciate your time.
It's been my pleasure, Norman. All the very best.
Again, this is Norman Kotrick for Eyes on Cricket. Watch for this episode and many other episodes coming up during the World Cup.